Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. In this episode, which is episode 8 in the series, we're going to look at the mystery around the Santa bear. And it's very important to bear in mind what we spoke about in the previous episode, dealing with tabloid news and is it helpful, and what sort of happens when it's not helpful. And this episode is kind of going to illustrate that sort of tabloid news aspect in a practical way. Speaking of tabloid news, this coming 4th of January, a new documentary is coming out called JonBenet Ramsey, What Really Happened. So it premieres on Discovery Plus on January the 4th. And I can tell you now that documentary is going to once again present the intruder narrative. The article in TV Insider presents Detective Lou Smith as a detective who almost single-handedly helped clear her accused parents. What that is kind of telling you is that Lou Smith kind of went against what the cops were thinking and investigating, and what the other detective on the case, Detective Steve Thomas, and also James Kohler, the direction that they were going in. So he was kind of, they say no man is an island, but in terms of the Ramsey case, in terms of law enforcement, Detective Lou Smith was sort of on his own. If we go back to the timeline, 24 years ago today, on the 17th of December, JonBenet took part in an all-star kids Christmas pageant, and she actually won Colorado's Little Miss Christmas at this pageant. And I think it is actually Detective Steve Thomas who actually opens his book with the words, something about Little Miss Christmas was crying. And that refers to another Christmas party on the 23rd, so around about a week later. Anyway, in Steve Thomas's book, it sort of starts off talking about Little Miss Christmas, and the prologue ends with her in tears, and someone asking her, "Why are you crying, JonBenet?" And JonBenet answering, "I don't feel pretty." And I think that is a very poignant beginning for the book from Steve Thomas. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's a heck of a lot of information about this particular aspect. It's sort of a very tabloidized, I know there's no such word, but a kind of a conspiracy theory nonsense story around the Santa bear. And there's just the amount of news stories and commentary around this bear is absolutely unreal. Very briefly, this little bear was found on the bed next to JonBenet's bed, and when the police questioned John and Patsy about this bear, neither of them said that they recognized it, which led to the kind of, how can I put it, it led to prominent figures, including the district attorney, Alex Hunter, asking the public for information, and this kind of started speculation that whoever gave JonBenet this bear was the killer. And one of the most natural suspects in terms of that was, didn't Santa give her that bear? And wasn't this kind of a clear evidence or clear clue that Bill McReynolds was the one that they were after? Anyway, before we dive into today's episode, first of all, a big thank you to the 25,000 subscribers, especially the 100, 200, 300 of you subscribed in the last couple of days. Obviously, if you haven't subscribed, please do like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. On the 20th of January 1997, Time magazine published an article that sort of referenced this all-star kids Christmas pageant, and this was the last pageant that JonBenet performed in. Now, it wasn't the last performance she gave. She did do another one, I think it was on the 22nd. Anyway, we'll get to that, but this was her last actual pageant. And the if the venue for this pageant was the Airport Holiday Inn in Denver, and it was at this pageant that John Bonet was handed a Santa Bear prize, right? And this is why the whole brouhaha around the Santa Bear is kind of crazy. Is as I say, the bear was later spotted on the bed next to John Bonet. Her parents didn't seem to remember where it came from, and so there was eventually kind of a national outreach. Can you guys help us find where this bear comes from, and it might help us find the person responsible for what happened to Jean Bonet, right? And of course, the most obvious reason for this bear being there wasn't really kind of entertained. What's also interesting is that Patsy's sister Pam sort of, whether purposefully or accidentally or unwittingly, fanned the flame of the whole tabloid story that there was a little note associated with this bear, and she said something about this note was eerily prophetic. And I think that Pam got her lines crossed, because Bill McReynolds gave John Bonet a card, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. This was at the Christmas party on the 23rd, where this guy, Bill McReynolds, attended dressed up as Santa, but he was recruited by Patsy, and anyway, he gave a card to John Bonet and said, "You will receive a surprise gift after Christmas." And I think that message was based on the instructions from Patsy. I don't know that for a fact, but why else would he have said something like that? In any event, that message kind of suggested that Bill McReynolds was going to return, right? Santa was going to return and give John Bonet another gift, or that she was led to believe that he was going to return, that she was going to have a visitor, and that she would expect him. And so that led to conspiracies around Santa did it, right? Bill McReynolds being responsible. But the Santa Bear thing, I think some people kind of assumed, as I say, whether unwittingly or maliciously or mischievously, that this message was put in the pouch of the little bear, the message saying that there was some kind of prophetic warning there. And you could argue that what Bill McReynolds said in the card was a prophetic warning as well. All I'm saying is that either Pam got her lines crossed, or it's possible that somebody wanted there to be an association between the Santa Bear and Santa Claus, and to think, wow, there's something suspicious going on here, right? When this evidence was put to Steve Thomas, when he was asked to comment on it, he said that he didn't see it as a big deal. And the fact that the Santa Bear disappeared later on, so it was photographed as part of the crime scene and then it just disappeared. He said, well, I'm pretty sure that Pam may have taken it when she was sent to the house and packed everything up. That was his kind of opinion of it, and he was saying that I don't really think it's a big deal. Now, if we go to Perfect Murder, Perfect Town, I think it's on page 126. That refers to the pageant on December 17th. Pam Griffin writes that John actually carried all her trophies and costumes to the car, and I don't know whether that would have included the Santa Bear. Maybe John Bonet was carrying that. But her parents were in attendance there, so it seems just a little bit strange that they wouldn't remember that. But it doesn't necessarily mean, it's a little detail that maybe they didn't remember. Of course, them not remembering it served to kind of reinforce the whole intruder narrative, right? I do think the fact that this being her last pageant, and the fact that the pageant occurred when she was 6 years old and it happened just a week before Christmas, gives you an idea of how busy John Bonet was in terms of pageants. I mean, she was doing it right up until Christmas. and then there were events that were kind of on the schedule following that. So in other words, in January, and as far as I know, in January the idea was that John Bonet and 9 other girls aged 5 to 18 were going to do a dance at the local Ronald McDonald charity ball, and John Bonet and her mother were there every week to practice, and that was something that was mentioned in the Time magazine article from January the 20th, 1997. So that was, so there was a lot going on leading up to what happened, and then after that. And you might say, so what is the relevance of this pageant activity? So let me throw the ball into your court and ask you, what do you think is the relevance of this pageant activity to what ultimately happened to John Bonet? I don't really want to talk too much about the Santa Bear, just because I consider it a non-story. So it's really just the reason I bring it up is just because it's associated with this timeline, right? But I am going to take you through the recap of information about the Santa Bear which is compiled by candyrose.com. I'll put a link in the description. And it's really incredible amount of information if you scroll through all of it. It's just a crazy amount of information that's an absolutely a sideshow to the actual investigation. And it just shows you to what extent the Ramsey case was capable of being crazy conspiracy stuff, right? And that is where the tabloids came in. The tabloids were eager to sort of use whatever story they could find to keep the story going, because it was such a big story. So just out of interest, LaDonna Grego was the person who purchased the bear as a prize, the one that John Bonet won as Little Miss Christmas. And the dates are alternately given for this particular pageant as being December 14th and December 17th. I know it's referred to as December 17th by Pam Griffin in Perfect Murder, Perfect Town, and that is the time that I accept as well. So let's just go through a recap of the events surrounding this little bear, and you're not going to believe this, but they go on from 1998, so June 1998, effectively until I think it's August 2000. So it sort of goes on for about 2 years at least, and there was a lot of conjecture following that. Are you ready? So here we go. And this is quoting from candyrose.com. The bear is about a foot long with a torso and face covered in furry white fabric. It's wearing a red long-sleeved bolero jacket. The bear's chest and stomach are exposed and there are no buttons. It also has pants trimmed along the edges, including the cuffs, in material that looks like curly lamb's wool. There's also a 1/2 inch wide black belt strapped around the bear's stomach, and attached to the belt is a shiny gold loop with a brown pouch about 3 inches long. And I think the idea was that there was supposed to be a note or something inside that pouch. So here we go. On the 23rd of June 1998, the Ramseys couldn't identify the Santa Bear on the bed. Now, this is from a crime scene photo. This is also from the second interrogation that they had, or interview if you prefer that. Then this sort of happened on 2 separate days, that they couldn't identify the Santa Bear, and there's also a white elf doll. Anyway, then we go to the 28th of January 1999. So effectively 2 full years after the events, the DA, Alex Hunter, issued a press release where he wanted the public to search for this unidentified Santa Bear. Now, just think about what we're talking about here. You've got the district attorney requesting the public to investigate this Santa Bear thing. Can you tell us where the Santa Bear comes from? And I mean, like I say, it's quite obvious it came from this pageant. And people involved knew it, but so why is it this mystery 2 years later? On the 28th of January, the same day, a photo of the Santa Bear was published on the Coldwater Police website in Michigan. Also, in the photo, John Bonet's Barbie doll is to the right of the stuffed bear. Then the next day, Media News had it as kind of a story. Hunter asks public to help locate toy or ID its maker. Pam Paw, that is Patsy's sister, said she believes it was on the other twin bed in John Bonet's room. I don't think you needed to believe that because it's clear from the photo. Linda Hoffman-Pugh said she didn't remember seeing the Santa Bear. That makes it seem quite mysterious, but bear in mind it only made its appearance in the last week of John Bonet's life. The family members say the bear did not belong to John Bonet. And so this is how it starts getting a life of its own. Pam Paw told Inside Edition there was a note inside the bear pouch. She said that this note was telling and a bit prophetic. As I said, I think she got her wires crossed with a card from Santa saying, you will get a surprise after Christmas kind of thing. Because besides that, there's no explanation ever for what this note was, and how would Pam know what that note was either, kind of thing. Anyway, then there's just a lot of postings from people on forums just talking about it. Someone said, conspiracy, D.A. Bear and denote. Spelled, so D.A. for capital D.A. letters, bear, and denote, spelled D.A. and note. Then on the 1st of February, police say teddy bear could provide lead in John Bonet Ramsey's murder. Then someone on a forum said Pam Paw's hoax about a message in the pouch. That was just the name of the forum post. And then Jameson said Pam told her that she saw the doll on the bed on the 28th of 1996. In other words, she saw it in person, she saw it in the room. Then on the 4th of February, DA Alex Hunter sent out a press release, search for information on Toy Bear is successful. So they'd obviously gotten word back from that. Then the day after that, the 5th of February, toy emerged as clue in John Bonet case during interview with mother. Then the Globe did one Santa Bear riddle in John Bonet murder feature story. Then Jameson appeared on the Dave Lucas show on the 15th. Pam saw Santa Bear when she went in-house to get clothing. And so it goes on, and so it goes on. On the 30th of October, the Web Sleuths Forum had an online questions and answers with Pam Paw. And she said, I do remember seeing the bear on the secondary bed in John Bonet's room. I'm told that the Boulder police have confirmed the source of the sales point for that model bear. Now, I don't know why she wouldn't say that bear was just given out to John Bonet during a pageant. Then on the 18th of March, in Death of Innocence on page 33, now this is the Ramsey's version of the story, that John Ramsey said John Bonet's last contest had been in early November. It doesn't give the exact date, but it was actually not early November, early December. It was actually late December, or it was past middle December. It was the 17th of December. On page 33, he said, I planned to be there for the talent show, but the program ran ahead of schedule. So John Bonet actually missed, John Ramsey missed his daughter's last pageant, effectively. Then he said, I missed both the performance and the award. He said, I sat down beside Patsy. John Bonet lit up like a Christmas tree. I think he means that she was happy to see him. I don't think it means that she was dressed like a Christmas tree, but I could be wrong. On page 273 of Death of Innocence, in photos, Patsy said she saw a red and white stuffed bear on the twin bed. She said, I didn't remember seeing that bear before. She said, my comment started a nationwide search for the bear. Then on the 9th of, is it April, January, February, March, sorry, the 9th of May, Steve Thomas was called to talk about this. So I guess about 2 months after Death of Innocence came out, and he was asked to sort of just comment on the teddy bear saga, which has now gone on for effectively 3 years. And so it goes on. John and Patsy Ramsey interview with Boulder police and prosecutors in Atlanta. I think while that was going on, the prosecution team said they received the bear from either Mr. Morgan or Mr. Haddon. So that's where the bear was, with their attorneys. The Ramsey's attorneys asked Gene Matthews to search boxes in Atlanta for the bear. John Bonet's bedroom boxes were in a basement of Don and Nidra Poor in Roswell, Georgia. And this is where the whole thing kind of gets settled, even though wasn't it settled in the beginning. Anyway, on the 29th of August, Detective Harmer obtained videotape of an AmeriKids pageant showing the bear on the table. So there it is. You now got video of the bear being part of the whole pageant scenario. And I think on the same day, the 29th of August, LaDonna Grego was confirmed to have purchased the bear as a prize for the AmeriKids pageant. And she did this on December 14th, 1996. And again, confirmation on the 29th of August 2000, John Bonet won the Santa Bear Prize as Little Miss Christmas. It says here, December 14th, 1996. I think that might be a typo, because I think it was actually the 17th, so 24 years ago today. On the same day, I think there was possibly a deposition on this particular day. Patsy was with John Bonet and when she won the Santa Bear. So it just seems a bit strange that Patsy won't remember that. It's possible that she just didn't remember it, but it's also maybe a little bit kind of weird, isn't it? So remember at the beginning of this episode, I spoke about how the tabloids can create drama and hysteria kind of for nothing. Well, this is a good example. And on the 29th of January 1999, Hunter asked the public for help, right? And then you even have quite respected people that participate in this. And I'm not saying they are kind of accessories, just that they get this ball rolling. And so you had an article by the respected journalist Charlie Brennan, and it's the article on the 29th of January 1999 is DA casts net for a Santa Bear. Hunter asked public for help to locate toy or ID its maker as possible clue in John Bonet case, and it actually wasn't. If this toy was given out as a prize in a pageant, it's got absolutely no relevance to the case. And then you have the article going out, family members say the bear did not belong to John Bonet, the 6-year-old beauty princess found murdered in her family's basement. It wasn't hers, said the child's aunt Pam Poor. I believe it was on the other twin bed in John Bonet's room. It's an example of something left in the house that didn't belong there and wasn't owned by any member of the family. And that's pretty significant in my book, kind of thing. Charlie Brennan does write there that it could be something more innocent. And the strange thing about his conjecturing here is it actually created a bigger problem than it solved, because he says 2 nights before John Bonet's murder, her parents hosted a Christmas party for family members. A guest might have given John Bonet the bear without her parents noticing. And that wasn't true either. But that sort of opened another can of worms. Who could this mysterious guest have been? What's very interesting about Hunter's response to all of this, because he kind of seemed to set the ball in motion, is he said, I intend to let this speculation take whatever course it will, since to confirm or deny theories about what this all means would most certainly damage the ongoing investigation. You hear the same thing in the Madeleine McCann case. We're not going to comment on something to kind of dispel speculation, because that might damage the investigation. And such a great investigation, isn't it? I mean, the investigation is going somewhere and is leading to a conclusion, and we wouldn't want to damage that, right? Except it's the opposite. The investigation is not going anywhere and the speculation is great. It just makes people think that something's happening. So if you scroll down the great kind of archive that's been assembled by Candy Rose, there's someone who posted on the Justice Watch forum calling it a hoax about a message in the pouch, and this was on the 2nd of February 1999, and that's exactly what it was. He also talks about there's nothing to it except poor journalism, and well, I won't say anything about that. What is also interesting is that one of the investigators, and I've got an idea it might be Lou Smith, because I think he interviewed Patsy in 1998. He was one of the people involved. Says something like, when this was brought up, this thing about the Santa Bear, Patsy stiffened, and the way it was described was she went white, and she was noticeably affected, and she was shocked. Where did it come from? I've never seen that before. And all of this kind of added to that whole absurdity surrounding the Santa Bear. Interestingly, in the same article, it refers to a second investigator familiar with the interview said he couldn't verify that she showed a strong reaction to the picture. I'm going to end this with just a quote from Steve Thomas, Detective Steve Thomas, and this happened on the 9th of May 2000 when there was an internet chat with a detective, and the question came up, did the teddy bear saga have any bearing on the case, right? And Steve Thomas responded, Patsy suggested a teddy bear depicted in a crime scene photo didn't belong. And then he said, on December the 28th, we didn't know exactly what her sister Pam Paul hauled out of there. So Pam kind of went into the house on the 28th and took a lot of things out of the house. And he was saying, so we were trying to determine if it did belong and from where it might have come. And he goes on to say, I don't believe that the Santa Bear is the mystery that many are making it out to be. Remember my favorite line from Lou Smith, murders are usually what they seem. He says, I don't believe an intruder brought a bear to lure the little girl and then a backup weapon of a stun gun just in case the bear didn't work. This would be the same intruder who forgot his pen, pad and ransom note. He says, I find it more likely, in my humble opinion, that all the stuffed animals that were not properly inventoried that went out of the house that December 28th, 1996, with Pam may have contained that Santa Bear. I don't think the bear is a mystery. I think the mystery, again in my opinion, is why Patsy is suggesting the bear didn't belong. How did it come to be in John Bonet's room? Who knows? I think it was just one of her several stuffed animals. Another question mark in the case. Somebody certainly knows, and that somebody's not talking about it. Agreed? Thanks for your question, Steve. I do find it a little bit poor form in a way that in May 2000, something as kind of, I mean, I guess it's obvious for us in hindsight to look at this and say, well, obviously it was a pageant prize, but it just seems a little bit like not strong investigative effort to confirm a simple thing like that. But as I said, maybe it's easier to know this stuff in hindsight. So just as a final point on this subject, for those who are listening to this timeline countdown and who are aware of the Chris Watts case, I think there is a tendency amongst people in true crime to want things to be true. you want to take things seriously because that's more exciting than something that's a non-story. And that's kind of what the Santa Bear was like. In the same way that there's this current craziness around Bella Watts about what supposedly happened to her. People want to believe that because the alternative is that it's like, there's nothing here, folks, move along. And so people want to find reasons to support their kind of, something that's sensational and a sort of a salacious possibility. People are kind of, how can I put it, they are wired in a way to be biased towards something that's very unlikely but is kind of stimulating and exciting. And in other words, people are quite susceptible to being misled, because in a way they want to be misled because that's more interesting. And it's very important in true crime to be level-headed and to let the evidence guide you, not that stuff, not that sort of exciting possibility stuff that the tabloids, pull the strings of the public with. In the next episode, I'll be taking you through John Bonet's medical report, so look out for that. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do. Like, share, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.